Welcome, wanderer of hidden truths. Have you ever felt that strange pull, as if an invisible thread tied your soul to another, beyond logic, beyond distance, beyond reason? That's no accident. And tonight we're going to uncover why. If you've been searching for meaning in those mysterious encounters that shake your life, stay close, because Carl Jung's philosophy might just explain what others dismiss as coincidence. Before we go deeper, remember this: every time you hit that like button and subscribe, you're not just supporting a channel, you're joining a community that dares to explore the shadow, the unknown, the forces most people fear to name. So, if you're ready to walk this path, make sure you're with us. Jung believed that when two souls meet in their purest form, no force in the universe can truly separate them. To him, these meetings were not accidents, but manifestations of what he called synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that reveal a deeper order of reality. Imagine two rivers flowing for miles apart, each carving its own path, until one day, without warning, they converge. That union feels inevitable, almost destined, and once it happens, no map can return them to being strangers again. Think about the encounters in your own life that left a mark: a stranger whose eyes felt familiar, a conversation that changed your direction in a single night, someone you couldn't explain yet couldn't forget. Jung would argue these are not random. They are encounters of the psyche, where the unconscious recognizes something in the other that the conscious mind can barely grasp. It is as if two pieces of a puzzle, hidden in different boxes, suddenly find each other, and the picture they form is undeniable. But here's where it becomes even more fascinating. When Jung spoke of two souls meeting, he wasn't simply describing romance or friendship. He was pointing to something archetypal, something that exists in the deep structure of our psyche. These encounters awaken what he called the anima and animus, the inner feminine and masculine energies within each of us. When another person stirs these hidden forces, the impact feels electric, fated, impossible to dismiss. Imagine walking through life half asleep, carrying unspoken questions you can't even name. Then suddenly, you meet someone, and without a single word, you feel as though they've opened a door you didn't know was locked. That shock of recognition isn't about them being perfect. It's about them activating a dormant part of you. This is why Jung believed such meetings can't be undone by external forces, because the transformation they trigger happens inside of you. Take, for instance, the story of two artists living on opposite sides of the world. They never met, never even knew of each other's existence. Yet their works mirrored each other's themes so precisely that when their paintings were finally compared, it was as if they had been in conversation across oceans. When they eventually crossed paths at an exhibition, the connection was immediate, as though they had known one another for lifetimes. Jung would call this synchronicity, the outer world arranging itself to reflect an inner bond already in motion. And that's why these encounters feel unstoppable. Even if circumstances pull people apart, the mark remains. The souls recognize each other, and the psyche remembers. It is not about possession or control, but about resonance, two frequencies vibrating so closely that they cannot help but leave an imprint on each other's being. This is why separation, in the truest sense, becomes an illusion. Two souls that meet on this deeper level can be divided by miles, by silence, even by years. Yet the connection lingers like a flame that refuses to be extinguished. Jung suggested that such bonds are not bound by time or space because they originate from the collective unconscious, that vast reservoir where all human experience and archetypes reside. When two people touch at that depth, they are touching something eternal. Think of it like this. When you strike a tuning fork and place another beside it, the second begins to vibrate in harmony even without being touched. That resonance is invisible, yet undeniable. In the same way, when two souls align, the world may place walls between them, but the vibration remains. Sometimes it resurfaces in dreams, where the other appears without invitation. Sometimes it shows up as a sudden thought, a song, or a strange coincidence that pulls them back into awareness. Jung's philosophy tells us that this isn't mere fantasy. It's the psyche expressing truths that the rational mind cannot contain. He often warned that ignoring these connections can lead to a sense of incompleteness because they awaken aspects of ourselves we can't unknow. It's not about clinging to another person, but about understanding what that encounter reveals in you. That's the real force that no one can separate. The transformation that begins when two souls mirror each other's hidden depths. And here lies the secret most people overlook. When two souls meet, the true bond is not only with the other person, but with the part of yourself they awaken. Jung believed that every encounter of this magnitude is a mirror, a revelation of what has been sleeping within you. The other becomes a key, but the door they open leads straight into your own depths. That's why the connection feels unshakable. Because even if the person disappears, the part of you they awakened cannot return to silence. Picture someone who has always lived cautiously, never daring to step outside the lines. One day, they meet another soul who lives with raw intensity, fearless in expression. That meeting might last days or even hours, but it's enough to ignite a fire. Suddenly, the cautious one feels an untamed energy rising inside, an energy that was always theirs, but hidden. Whether or not the two remain together, that awakening is permanent. It has rewired their being. This is why Jung often spoke of destiny, not as a path we walk alone, but as something shaped by encounters. Some people arrive in your life to hand you a challenge, others to hand you a wound, and a rare few to hand you a mirror, so clear that you finally see yourself. And once you see, you cannot unsee. That is why no force can separate two souls that meet in this way, because the meeting carves itself into the fabric of who you are. And the beauty, as well as the danger, of such encounters is that they demand transformation. Jung warned that when two souls meet at this depth, it's never casual. It shakes foundations, disrupts routines, and sometimes even tears apart the identity you thought was solid. Why? Because the soul recognizes what the ego has been avoiding. The other person becomes a catalyst, and catalysts don't leave things as they are. They ignite reactions that change everything. Think of the myth of Persephone and Hades. Their meeting wasn't gentle. It was violent, shattering, world-altering. Yet from it came the cycle of seasons, the rhythm of life and death. In the same way, when a soul-deep connection occurs, it may feel unsettling or even destructive, but its purpose is creation. It breaks down the walls that kept you numb and forces you into a more authentic existence. Some resist this force, clinging to their comfort zones, trying to rationalize the connection away. But the more they resist, the more haunted they feel. Because the unconscious does not forget. It keeps calling through dreams, through synchronicities, through restless yearning. Jung believed that ignoring such a call is like denying your own reflection. You might try to look away, but a part of you knows the truth. Something inside has already shifted, and no external force can undo that awakening. This is why Jung describes such meetings as encounters with the self, the deepest center of our being, the blueprint of who we are meant to become. When two souls meet, they don't just recognize each other. They awaken each other's path to wholeness. It feels magnetic because, at some level, it is. The unconscious pulling you toward growth, even if that growth terrifies you. Imagine a woman who has always lived hidden in the safety of logic and order. She meets a man whose life is chaos, driven by instinct and fire. At first, she resists him, even despises what he represents. Yet, she cannot deny the pull. Over time, she realizes it's not really about him. It's about the part of herself he mirrors, the wild and untamed force she buried long ago. By meeting his soul, she reclaims her own. That is the true alchemy Jung pointed to. The other becomes both mirror and catalyst, revealing what was lost, so you can become whole. And here's the paradox. Even if distance, time, or circumstance tear these two people apart, the transformation cannot be undone. Once the soul has been touched at that depth, it carries the imprint forever. You may move on, you may build a new life, but somewhere inside, the echo of that meeting continues to guide you. It's not about possession. It's not about clinging. It's about the undeniable truth that when two souls meet in such a way, they leave marks on each other's existence that no force can erase. And perhaps that is why these encounters feel both like a blessing and a burden. A blessing because they awaken parts of you that would have remained dormant without that spark. A burden because once awakened, those parts demand to be lived, no matter the cost. Jung believed that the psyche conspires for our wholeness, even if it means breaking us open in uncomfortable ways. The soul does not care for convenience, it cares for truth. Think of lovers separated by continents who still dream of one another on the same night, or strangers who meet for a brief instant yet feel they have known each other across lifetimes. These stories aren't accidents. They are testimonies to the invisible fabric of connection that Jung insisted runs through all human existence. And when two souls meet within that fabric, it is as if the universe itself leans closer, rearranging circumstances to make sure the encounter leaves its mark. The lesson is not to romanticize every intense connection, but to understand its meaning. That force that no one can separate is not just between you and the other person. It is between you and your destiny. The meeting is the signal, the spark, the disruption that shows you the way toward becoming who you truly are. To ignore it is to choose sleep over awakening. To embrace it is to step into a life charged with depth, meaning, and inevitability. There's an old tale told in hushed tones, a story that captures exactly what Jung meant. It's about two wanderers who lived in distant lands, unaware of each other's existence. One carried a wound of silence. He had spent his life unseen, hidden in the shadows of others. The other carried a fire. She had burned through life too quickly, exhausting herself in pursuit of recognition. By chance, or perhaps by design, their paths crossed one night beneath a sky thick with stars. Neither expected the encounter to matter, yet from the first words, something stirred. He felt seen. as if her eyes pierced through the invisibility cloak he had worn his entire life. She felt calmed, as if his presence cooled the restless flames inside her. In that instant, both realized this was not a meeting of strangers, but of something older, something that belonged to both of them. They went on with their lives, but neither walked away unchanged. He began to speak with the voice he didn't know he had, while she finally rested in a stillness she had always feared. Even when distance and silence later separated them, the transformation remained. The mark of the other lived within, woven into their stories forever. This is the essence of what Jung tried to illuminate. When two souls meet in truth, the world may shift, time may pass, but what has been awakened cannot be unawakened. The universe doesn't allow it, and so the tale of the wanderers becomes our tale too. Because each of us, at some point, meets a soul who rips the veil away and forces us to confront who we really are. You cannot control when it happens, and you cannot undo it once it does. These encounters are not about possession, not about holding on forever, but about awakening something that lives in the deepest part of you. That is why Jung insisted, when two souls meet, no force can separate them. The meeting itself becomes eternal, etched into the architecture of your being. Perhaps you've felt it already. That unexplainable recognition, that shock of belonging, that terrifying yet beautiful pull that defies logic. If you have, you know it changes you. If you haven't, know that it will, because the psyche hungers for wholeness, and it will find its way to you in the form of another. What matters is what you do with it. Do you run from the fire, or do you let it transform you? Do you dismiss it as coincidence, or do you dare to see it as destiny calling your name? The choice is always yours. But the mark of such a meeting will remain, whispering, guiding, and reminding you of the parts of yourself you were born to claim. If this journey through Jung's philosophy stirred something in you, if you felt that spark of recognition, don't let it fade. Subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, and stay with me as we continue exploring the darker, hidden truths of the psyche. Because there are more stories waiting. And once you hear them, you'll never see yourself the same way again.